Excellent. Well, welcome to our Visiting Scholar Program application information session. Thanks to all who are joining. Erin, Kate, and I will each introduce ourselves. I'm Kelly Evans. I'm the chair of the Visiting Scholar Program committee, and am excited to share information about next year's program.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Kate Crowley in Columbia University here in New York City, and happy to be here as well. Thanks.
And I'm Erin Brenneman. I am the manager of member engagement and programs at ACPA, and I manage the Visiting Scholar program. So if you have any questions about the application or the process, I'm the person that you go to.
And I fully second that. Erin's a wonderful champion for this program. So thanks for joining us. I'm here in the morning in Seattle, and excited to tell you all more. Okay, so the Visiting Scholar Program is driven by ACPA's values. So our vision is in ACPA is leading interdisciplinary cleft and craniofacial care so that patients and families can thrive. And this is founded in our values of empowering and supporting cleft and craniofacial healthcare professionals and the patients they serve through research, education, and advocacy. We promote team care and professional collaboration to ensure the highest quality resources are available to all who have a craniofacial difference throughout their healthcare journey. So the Visiting Scholar Program gives scholars a firsthand opportunity to see interdisciplinary team-based cleft and craniofacial care and provide the scholars with knowledge to establish or improve cleft and craniofacial care within their home country in a team setting. Scholars travel to two ACPA-approved teams, the host sites in the spring, usually 2 weeks per site, and then attend the ACPA's annual meeting with a total duration of visit about 5 to 6 weeks.
All right, Kate.
So the program goals are to expose the visiting scholars with specific skills needed for elevating the level of cleft and craniofacial care in various regions in the world, to develop a continuing relationship between ACPA and the visiting scholars, to strengthen the scholars' understanding of interdisciplinary care through professional development and mentoring. 4, to ensure that the scholars have access to current research, best practices, standards of care, and innovative thoughts and ideas. And finally, to support the development of the scholars' clinical and research skills. What the program does not do. It's not a fellowship and it doesn't give a certification. Scholars will not receive any continuing education credits outside of the annual meeting, the ACPA annual meeting. While scholars may learn new skills within their discipline during visits, the main purpose of the program is to learn how to provide interdisciplinary team care.
So regarding funding of this ACPA program, while the ACPA does provide assistance with the visa application process, including reimbursement of visa fees, a scholar may be liable to expenses specifically around their travel and visa. But the ACPA does fund all expenses related to the program itself. And this includes airfare, hotel, ground transport, the ACPA annual meeting registration, and meals. It all will be covered by the ACPA. Any extracurricular activities, for example, sightseeing and team dinners, are typically paid for by the scholar or the host site. As I mentioned, the visa process can be complex. So the visa application fees can be reimbursed upon request, but the scholar, as I mentioned, is responsible for travel expenses that are required to obtain the visa. The ACPA is really grateful to and thanks SmileTrain for support of the Visiting Scholar Program. So the ACPA will offer two visiting scholar scholarships in 2026, both the ACPA Visiting Scholarship and the ACPA Smile Train Visiting Scholarship. To apply for the ACPA Smile Train Visiting Scholarship applicants must be a partner of Smile Train. And this scholar will then visit at least one host site that is partnered with Smile Train. So eligibility for applicants, the uh, hopes are applicants must meet the following criteria to be considered as a visiting scholar. So and this is really to help support a scholar being successful and really to have the best experience possible participating in this program. So the applicants must have at least 3 years of working experience in an area of specialty post-training. Have at least 3 years experience caring for patients with a cleft and or craniofacial condition, have the capacity to implement change in their home institution, reside in a country that is included on the World Bank's list of low and middle income countries. And we know that this list does change. And then be able to meet any vaccination requirements at the host sites. Additionally, special consideration is given to candidates from countries and or disciplines that have not recently participated in a visiting scholar program, with hopes of being able to offer this opportunity and learning and experience to as many diverse potential participants as possible.
Kate.
So the application sponsor. In order to remove the barriers to applying for the Visiting Scholar Program, applicants are no longer required to have an ACPA sponsor. Your applicants are still welcome and encouraged to receive assistance from an ACPA member during the application process, so long as the applicant is the individual completing the application. ACPA will not ask applicants if assistance was given during the application process. So here are the countries that are currently listed on the World Bank's list of low and middle income countries. Those are the ones who are eligible to apply.
And I'll just chime in one little on the past slide. So it's recommended that you check to ensure that there are no travel restrictions on your country for traveling to the US or Canada. And the selection panel consider scholars that are able to travel to the United States.
So I guess here is the application here is the link to begin the application, and it's due at the end of March, the last day of March. So for the guidelines, read through all the instructions before answering a question. Make sure all the responses are in English with proper grammar and spelling. The readers will all be English speakers. Maybe bilingual or multilingual, but that's the language we're going to be using in the committee. And only completed applications will be accepted and reviewed.
So next, we will provide some useful tips on completing the Visiting Scholar application. So the application will ask you to describe your three goals for participating in the Visiting Scholar program. These goals should be achievable, measurable, and outcomes-based. And it's recommended that the goals focus really on interdisciplinary team care. That really is the sort of the core linking sort of value and that we are hoping to see when we're looking at applications. In what ways might your experience as a visiting scholar help improve interdisciplinary team care in your home region? You'll also be asked to include current obstacles and how the Visiting Scholar program might help you remove those obstacles from each goal or objective.
Kate.
So here are the host sites. So you list your 3 preferred host sites to visit. These teams must be from the list of approved host sites. Here are the host sites for 2025. Children's Hospital of Orange County Craniofacial Team, that's in Southern California. Children's Hospital of Colorado Cleft Palate and Craniofacial Program in Aurora, Colorado. Nationwide Children's Hospital Cleft Lip and Palate Center and the Center for Complex Craniofacial Disorders in Columbus, Ohio. CHEO Cleft Lip Palate Craniofacial Team in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Children's Hospital of Philadelphia Cleft and Craniofacial Program in Philadelphia. Vanderbilt Children's Hospital Pediatric Cleft and Craniofacial Program in Nashville, Tennessee. Dell Children's Craniofacial and Reconstructive Plastic Surgery Center in Austin, Texas, and Fogelson's Plastic Surgery and Craniofacial Center for Children in Dallas, Texas. So those are, you choose 3 preferred sites from that particular list. You will be asked, here's some application tips. For the host site, you'll be asked to provide reasons why you select each center. So a good response will tie why you selected the host site with the objectives that you state. Simply stating you're interested in visiting the city or the institution is reputable is not an acceptable response. It's recommended that you research each team and identify the host sites that best match your interests and needs. Please note there is no guarantee if selected you will visit any or all host sites of your choice. While preferences are considered, the selection panel will identify the 2 host sites they believe are the best match for the scholar who's chosen.
So when completing the application and specifically the essay questions, be clear and thoughtful in your responses. It's a balance between being concise and providing enough information. Um, the responses should be in paragraph format using full sentences. And while we want you to be concise, responses that are too brief may not provide sufficient information to the selection panel. And as you're writing essays, please remember the goals of the program and your own objectives. Your responses should tie into these. And just really quickly reviewing the goals, exposing scholars with specific skills needed for elevating cleft and craniofacial care in all regions of the world, developing a continuing relationship with the ACPA and visiting scholars, strengthening the scholars' understanding of interdisciplinary care through professional development and mentoring, ensuring scholars have the access to research, best practices, standards of care, and innovative thoughts and ideas, and developing scholars' clinical and research skills.
So you'll be required to submit 3 references. One of these references must be a medical or professional director. You will not be able to submit the application until the reference letters are uploaded. When uploading the reference letters, be sure the correct letter is attached under each reference. Applications that have incorrect attachments may be considered incomplete and not viewed.
So here's our timeline. The applications for the 2026 Visiting Scholar program are open. They opened in January, and the deadline is about a month away at the end of March, March 31st, for applications to be received. Applicants will be notified of the results in June or July of this summer, 2025. And the visiting scholar visit begins in February 2026. So we're in a little bit earlier timeline for the 2026 program. And the visiting scholar will conclude their visit and program at the ACPA's annual meeting in Boston, Massachusetts in March 2026.
So if you need any assistance, please contact the ACPA National Office. Aaron Brenneman is Pretty extraordinary. And she's the manager of member programs and engagement. And there is her email.
And we're happy to open up to any questions. I know that the landscape and resources and restrictions, and there's so many things that are changing. So we really advocate for being in close communication with Erin with any questions that arise, even after this meeting. But please feel free to unmute and ask any questions you have right now. Or not sure. It looks like there's a chat, live chat.
Yeah, Kadeha. How do I get a certification to be a craniofacial specialist? It's a good question. It should come through, this one thing, it would come through in your recommendations and in your training, which will show up. Anything else, Erin or Kelly?
I don't think so, Kate.
Oh, I see there's a question in the chat that says, is there a separate way to apply for VSP under Smile Train and under ACPA? So of the two scholarships that are offered, one is the ACPA Smile Train Visiting Scholarship, which Smile Train has graciously supported. So if you're looking, when you apply, there's not really any separate application between the two. You'll just apply for the one Visiting Scholar program and we select two from there. There's a question in the application that asks if you're a partner of Smile Train that will determine whether you're qualified to receive the Visiting Scholar Smile Train scholarship. So please make sure to answer that question accurately if you are a partner with Smile Train or not, and that will help determine which scholarship you receive.
And then there was a question from Shabazz. Is it necessary to have a medical director reference, or can it be a dental director, dean, or principal of the institution? My understanding would be, Erin, and correct me, that whomever is the sort of director of your department, you're sort of in your clinical work would be acceptable.
Yeah, that's correct.
So I think, yes, the dental director, dean, or principal of the institution, if they have sort of direct exposure to your clinical work, and makes sense.
I don't know the answer to Rachel's question. Is it okay if the hospital I work is supported with Operation Smile, but I work with Smile Train on campaigns? Of course, you can be the non-Smile Train selection, but I don't know about the rest of that in terms of marking whether they are a Smile Train partner. I think the answer is probably no.
I think if you're not sure if you work with Smile Train in some capacity, but you're not sure if you're actually a partner with them, the best resource would be to go to Smile Train and ask them that question.
I agree. Isha, please unmute.
So I contacted Smile Train in my country. I'm from India, and they said that they've already selected the candidate whom they are willing to sponsor for the VSP. So since my center too is associated with Smile Train, does that lower my chances if I apply not through the Smile Train scholarship, but by the other way? Does that work, or will I be rejected?
I think I know that Smile Train I know does some internal recruitment for applicants, but that has no impact on our selection process. We simply look at who is actually partnered with Smile Train. So regardless of whether they've selected certain individuals that they are sponsoring, if you're partnered with Smile Train, you would be qualified for the visiting scholar Smile Train scholarship. You would also be able to apply for the other scholarship as well.
They might mean that it's been selected for this year, but we're talking about next year. So, who can be the other two references? In my opinion, when I review the applications, and please, Kelly and Erin, I would say the references are very, very important to me. to hear, because that gives a sense of how they can bring what they've learned back to their country. Sometimes that's where you get it from the references, more from the statement from the applicant. So somebody who can attest to your ability to meet the goals of the program is who I would look for in the references. And there's not a form for the reference letter.
Yeah, and I would say, obviously it doesn't have to be any specific person. Of course, you want to have someone who can, attest to your qualifications on the professional side. That's the most important part, and to know that you'll be able to take that whatever you learn during the visiting scholar experience back home and actually implement changes. If you do know of an ACPA member or someone in the United States that would be able to do a reference letter, we also recommend doing that. We don't, the panel doesn't choose those who have ACPA members as references over others that don't, but sometimes they can give you a strong letter.
Also, if you're a Smile Train partner and you have strong relationship with someone at Smile Train, that's another person who might write you a letter. Any other questions?
I see as someone's asked, does a former director qualify for a referee? And I would say former director could be a reference.
But probably it wouldn't meet the medical director reference, because that would have to be current, I would think.
Yeah, it can't be that reference, but it could be one of your other references.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it does not need, the applicant does not need to be a surgeon or an MD. It could be anybody from the comprehensive care team, care team as well.
And going back to the first question, I think this one, I'm not sure if I totally understood, but getting a certification to be a craniofacial specialist is obviously a very separate pathway. This really is the experience and exposure focused on interdisciplinary team care. But the hope is that you have at least 3 years of experience working with individuals with cleft and or craniofacial conditions.
And I see someone asked how many candidates will be accepted. So we have 2 scholarships a year, so one for each scholarship. Do we have any other questions? Oh, here we go. Can we apply for a coming year even if we've already applied previously and not get selected? Of course, you can apply as many times as you would like to for each year. Obviously, if you get selected, you aren't going to be qualified to apply again. But if you don't get selected, there's no limit to how many times you can apply.
We only wish we had visiting scholarships for everybody who is
In fact,
qualified. There's a lot of qualified people.
In fact, we encourage, if you don't get it selected one year, we encourage you to apply again, and and hopefully, you can take your application and improve on it, and hopefully in a future year you will get selected. All right, just another question. It says, when it says 3 years of experience post specialty, does it mean after the second degree, or can you just apply as a general medical or dental practitioner?
So it would be 3 years of cleft craniofacial experience, which generally does not come when you're a general medical or dental practitioner, but it could. But that's the only way that time would account for the 3 years of cleft craniofacial experience.
And if it's helpful on the ACPA website, it links or there's a list of the past scholars and also potentially maybe sources of good guidance and information. I see there's a question, can we do a research project while being a participant in the scholar program? Yeah, I think we encourage that the program be able to meet your goals and objectives outlined in the application. And I think a completion of a research project, depending on the scope, could be challenging, but certainly is something in developing a relationship with the host site and mentors that is reasonable and may stretch beyond the program itself.
Mm-hmm. And I would say, if you got selected, you could even if you wanted to choose to submit an abstract to the annual meeting, knowing that you're attending the meeting. That's completely an optional and separate from the program, but there's no limits on who can submit an abstract. Additionally, those who get selected as a visiting scholar do a short presentation at the annual meeting that where they talk about their experiences. All right. Do we have any other questions? Let's see. Okay, one question here says, does orthodontics come under 3 years of post-specialty experience? And they said they have worked and taught in clinical setting and frequently saw cleft palate patients. Kelly and Kate, are you able to answer to that one?
It's a hard one, right? It will depend on what your application looks like. And if it looks like you had some kind of significant experience with cleft and craniofacial patients and on the team as well, or on some kind of a team that's offering those services, those specialized services. So I think it would depend on how the application looks, because the 3-year requirement is important to make sure that the person has the depth of experience to really benefit from the visiting scholar opportunities and then be able to go back and implement interdisciplinary care.
Yeah, I think as what Kate was saying, that's really the reason we have these requirements to the number of years of experience, is because we want to make sure that the scholar that comes in has the ability to make changes once they return to their home institution. And we find that if you're just coming out of training, that you might not be at that stage of your career quite yet.
Kadeha, I can't see how it wouldn't, right? You look like a yes, I would imagine so, right? 7 clinical years of clinical work, or if it's 7 years of academics, a master's and a PhD, that's not clinical work, even though it's incredible. I think that we would want the clinical work and not simply the academic, not simply, I know PhD is nothing to sneeze at, but at all. But that's the only issue, to make sure there was clinical work involved as opposed to academic learning.
Any other questions? I don't think I see any other questions coming in. I do want to remind everyone that, as previously mentioned, if you do have any questions as you're going through the application process, you can always email me. The email was on the slide. This session was recorded, so you can watch it on replay once we share the recording, and we can also share the slides as well.
Shabazz just said he is 9 years, or he or she, sorry, has 9 years after specialization with teaching and clinical experience. I would imagine you got 3 years out of that 9. So yes. But that will be important to make sure, that was a really good series of questions, to make sure that you're able to show that you have 3 years of clinical experience with cleft and craniofacial patients.
See, the question here is, will the references be contacted by ACPA? We will not be, we don't plan to contact them. So you'll just be uploading the letter. And we just want to make sure that you are uploading the correct letter. So, if as mentioned before, if there's an incorrect letter where you're not, where it's not the person that is written. So I think in the application, there's a section where you list their name and their position. If it doesn't match, then that might be considered incomplete, but we won't actually contact them.
And is it the scholar, the applicant themselves who uploads the letter?
Yes, this is a change from our application last year. Last year we had we would have you email out the references and they would upload. However, we found there were a lot of technical issues that came along with that. So to simplify the process, you'll be uploading the letters yourself this year. And you will not actually be able to submit the application until those letters are submitted. I think it'll be considered incomplete. But you'll be able to, the application does automatically save, so you can start the application and then come back to it later, so you don't have to do it all in one setting.
Thanks for these excellent questions. Are there any final questions? We encourage you to apply again if you haven't been a scholar before, to really highlight your hopes for implementing change and focus on interdisciplinary cleft and craniofacial care in your application, and to find referees that can really speak to your experience and your ability to implement and help with change and improvement in your home institution.
Right. Well, thank you everyone for attending. And again, we'll be sending out everything to all the recording and the slides to everyone following the meeting. So it'll probably be, I don't know if it'll be today, but it'll probably be either tomorrow or early next week. And I do see one more question before we go. Says, is it possible to meet the team in any offered site prior to applying? We don't, ACPA doesn't set up any meetings with applicants. However, the teams, their contact information is listed on our website under the team listings, and it's also on their, I think if they have a website listed as well. So you're welcome if you want to contact any of the host sites for questions about what they do as a team and whether it's a good fit. We invite you to reach out to them.
Good luck, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Take care. Bye.